Erev Shabbat Shalom Rabotai. We are continuing with our Mishna Yomi, Masechet Bava Kamma. We are up to Perek Aleph Mishnah Gimel. Today's Mishnayot should be Le'ilu Nishmat Neria ben Svetlana Ranbai Eliyahu ben Burchai Israelov Chana bad Miriam Sason ben Rai and Yoshua ben Shifra Menuchatam began Eden Amen and Leavdil ben Chaim lechaim v'derefua shelemav Daniel Shalom ben Rosa betoch Shah Chulei Israel. This Mishnah discusses some more rules about payment for damage. Shum kesef, the evaluation of damage must be in money. Now this teaches that if, for example, Reuven's cow stepped on Shimon's coat and damaged it, and later Reuven's cow broke its leg by slipping on Shimon's coat that was lying on the ground, where it was a hazard like a pit, the court does not say that since both suffered a loss, neither one pays the other. Rather, it makes an exact monetary evaluation of each person's loss, and whoever owes the larger amount pays the difference. V'shaveh chesef, if a damager dies and leaves property to his heirs, the victim cannot collect money or movable objects which are equivalent to money, but only that which is merely worth money, meaning land. Land is called worth money in contrast to movable property, which is called money. Since movable property can be taken anywhere and is therefore easy to sell, it is almost as useful as money. Land, on the other hand, is merely worth money because it cannot be taken to buyers. Rather, buyers must be brought to the land, which makes selling it more difficult. As long as a mazik, a damager, is alive, there is no difference between cash, movable property, and land. He must pay with whatever he has. After he dies, however, and leaves his estate to orphans, the nizak can take only the damagee, the one who was damaged, can take only the land in the estate and not cash or movable objects. Bifnei Bet Din, these decisions that the evaluation of damage and its collection from the damager or his family must sometimes be made by a court of expert judges, meaning outstanding scholars who receive smicha. This refers to the smicha that was first granted by Moshe to his students, who in turn granted it to their students, and so on through the generations. It is not to be confused with modern day smicha. In fact, the law allows for ordinary judges to decide most monetary cases, including claims of damage. Judges with smicha required only where the damage is unusual or the payment is a penalty, meaning it's not the same as an actual loss. And these decisions must be based on the testimony of witnesses who are free men and members of the covenant, meaning the testimony of free Jewish men is required. Women are included in the laws of damages, meaning whether a woman causes damage or suffers damage, the law for her is the same as the law for a man. The victim and the damager share in the payment, meaning there are cases in which the victim also pays. For example, if an animal was killed and later its carcass decreased in value, the damager needs to pay only for the victim's loss at the time of the damage and not for the loss that occurred later. So the victim, so to speak, pays in the sense that he has not compensated for his entire loss. For instance, an animal worth 100 zuz was killed and its carcass was worth 10 zuz at the time of death. So the mazik must pay 90 zuz. Before the case was decided in court, the carcass decreased in value from 10 zuz to 5 zuz. Even so, the mazik still has to pay only 90 zuz, and the nizak, the victim, loses the 5 zuz of the carcass's depreciation. And that is the end of Mishnah Gimel. Now, besides the 4 categories of damage listed in the first Mishnah, there is the category of keren, horn. Keren includes damage that an animal does intentionally. For example, it gores another animal with its horns. The primary case of the keren category is damage done by goring. This is discussed in Sefer Shemot, chapter 21, verse 28 and verse 35. Other types of intentional damage, such as pushing, biting, and kicking, are toledot-derived cases of keren, of horn. Because intentional damage is unusual for most animals, the category also includes any activity that is unusual. Therefore, whenever an animal does damage in an unusual way, the rules of keren, horn, apply. This Mishnah, Mishnah Dalet, deals with the differences between a tam and a muad. A tam is an animal that is not expected to do damage in a particular way. Since such behavior is unexpected for this animal, its owner does not have to guard it from damaging in such a manner. Therefore, If the animal happens to do damage in this way, the owner does not have to pay the full amount of the victim's loss. He pays only half. Now really, the mazik, the damager, should not have to pay anything. The half payment is a fine that the Torah imposed on him. And B, a mu'ad, plural, mu'adim, on the other hand, is an animal that is expected to do damage in a certain way. Every animal is a mu'ad with respect to damaging in the course of its normal activities, such as eating shen or walking regel. Furthermore, a tam can become a mu'ad if it damages in an unusual way 3 times, and after each time its owner is warned by the court to guard it. From that point on, the animal is a mu'ad with regard to that type of behavior. Since the behavior is no longer unexpected, its owner therefore must pay in full should it damage that way a 4th time. Now, tam literally means simple or innocent. Mu'ad literally means warned. After each time the animal damages in an unusual way, the court warns the owner to prevent it from doing so again. The Mishnah begins, Chamishat tamin v'chamisha mu'adin. There are 5 situations in which an animal is a tam and 5 situations in which it is a mu'ad. Habema enah mu'edet, an animal is not a mu'ad, rather it is a tam the first 3 times that it damages in any of these unusual ways. Lo ligach, it is not a mu'ad to gore with its horns. V'lo ligof, nor to push with its body. V'lo lishoch, nor to bite something with intent to damage it. V'lo lirbotz, nor to squat on something with intent to break it. V'lo liv'ot, nor to kick something with intent to break it. Since these are unusual activities, the owner pays only half the amount of the damage. Now, these activities are considered unusual and therefore fall under the category of keren only if they are done with intent to cause damage. But if, for example, an animal bites food because it wants to eat, which is normal, damage belongs to the category of shen. And if an animal happens to squat on something as it bends its leg, or it kicks something accidentally while it walks, the damage is regel. Regarding all actions that are defined as shen or regel, every animal is a mu'ad, as the Mishnah will explain, since these are common and expected behaviors. The Mishnah now lists the 5 situations in which every animal is a mu'ad, and therefore full damages must be paid even the first time. Hashen mu'edet le'echol et ha'ra'oi lah. In the case of damage through shen, eating an animal is a mu'ad from the start, since it is normal for an animal to eat food that is suitable for it. However, if an animal eats an item that is clearly not food, such as clothing, it has done keren damage, for which it is a tam, as the Mishnah says in chapter 2, Mishnah 2. Haregel mu'edel l'shaber b'derech hiluchah. In the case of damage to regel, walking, an animal is a mu'ad from the start, since it is normal for an animal to break things in the course of its walking. V'shora mu'ad, an ox or an other animal that became a mu'ad by doing keren damage 3 times. Now, this case refers to all the 5 activities listed above: goring, pushing, biting, squatting, and kicking. For example, if an animal deliberately pushes other animals 3 times and injures them, it is a mu'ad with respect to pushing because it has shown that this is its usual behavior. If it then pushes and damages a 4th time, the owner must pay in full. V'shora mazik b'rshut anizak, an ox or any animal that does keren damage in an area owned by the damaged party is treated as though it were a mu'ad, even the first time it acts that way. Now, the Mishnah taught earlier that an animal is a tam with respect to keren damage. However, if an animal entered the victim's property and did keren damage there, it has the law of a mu'ad and that the owner must pay full compensation. This follows the opinion of Rabbi Talfon, but the sages disagree, as taught in chapter 2, Mishnah 5. The ha'adam, and a person is a mu'ad from the start. This is the category of adam mazik, which is damage that a person does with his own body or force. For example, he strikes something with his hand or foot, or he shoots something with an arrow. The Mishnah does not mention esh, fire, and bowl, pit among the 5 mu'adim, although they can be expected to do damage because it deals only with living creatures. These again are the 5 situations in which every animal is always a mu'ad, and therefore damages must be paid even the first time. Now, the Mishnah discusses certain species of animals that are aggressive by nature. Hazev, the wolf; Va'ari, the lion; Va'adov, the bear; Va'namer, the leopard; Va'bardelas, the hyena; Va'nachash, and the snake. Hare'elu mu'adin, are mu'adin from the start, even in respect to keren damage, because it is normal for these animals to deliberately attack. These 6 animals were not added to the 5 cases of mu'adim listed earlier, which would have made a total of 11, because these animals are not found where people live and so are unlikely to be owned by a person or to damage property that belongs to a person. Rabbi Eliezer Omer, however, Rabbi Eliezer says, Bizman shen b'nei tarbut enan muadin. When they are domesticated, meaning they were raised in someone's home, they are not muadin because they are presumably tame. Now this is only the opinion of Rabbi Eliezer. According to the sages, however, these animals are always muadim, because even if they were raised among people, they cannot be assumed to be tame. V'anachash muad olam, but even Rabbi Eliezer accepts that a snake is always a muad, even if it is raised in a home, because he agrees that a snake can never be tamed. And the Rab does tell us, the halacha does not follow the opinion of Rabbi Eliezer, the halacha follows the opinion of the sages, that these animals are always muadim, because even if they were raised among people, they cannot be assumed to be tame. The Mishnah teaches that there are two differences between a tam and a muad in regard to payment. Ma ben tam le muad, what are the differences between a tam and a muad? Ela sha'atam mishalem chatzi nezek migufo. The differences are only that when a tam damages, its owner pays half damages and the payment is taken from its body, meaning the owner needs to give only the damaging animal as payment. If that animal's value is less than half the damage, he does not pay the difference. For instance, if an ox worth 40 zuz gores another ox, causing 100 zuz in damage, the mazik needs to pay only 40 zuz, even though the half payment damage is 50 zuz. He is exempt from paying the 10 zuz that remain. And if it dies or becomes lost, he does not have to pay anything. Umuad mishlem nezik shalem mina aliyah. But when a muad damages, its owner pays full damages, no matter how much the damaging animal is worth. And if he pays with land, he must pay from the best land he has. And that is Anabotai of today's Mishna Yomi. Everybody should have an Erev Shabbat Shalom. Baruch Adonai Le'olam. Amen v'amen.